Hello, this is Tony. I'm going to give you a demonstration on how to change the transmission fluid and filter on a 1987 F250. I actually did just change this transmission fluid this morning. I started about 8 o'clock and finished around 3. So I have very fresh experience. I've done this on a number of different vehicles many times over the years. So I have some idea what's going on. It would be nice to have a lift like the shops do. I just have a board with a towel on it that I roll under and lay on to keep the dirt and the gravel off of my back. The first thing you need is a 1987 F250. It looks something like this. Next, underneath the floorboards, from the underneath, you'll see there's a transmission pan. And if you look very closely, this one is clean and dry, and you can see some of the red gasket sealant right there. At some point you'll need this information. This dipstick here is where you check the level. And over here, right there, and down below, that's where the transmission fluid cooler connects to the radiator. Additionally, there's a vacuum line that you can see right here with the wire wrapped around it, and it goes up underneath here to the front of the carburetor. The left one, the left hose right there, you see the smaller one. A few things. Carburetor cleaner. This is by far the best brand I've ever run across, and it's the cheapest. And a wire brush, and a variety of sockets, and possibly some screwdrivers. A handful of grease rags isn't going to hurt. These are clean ones. I have an outdoor workbench that's well lighted, or my shop, which is even a better option. This is the actual filter that's being replaced. You can see there's a screen there. On this particular transmission, which is a C6 or 350 turbo hydromatic, you have to take the pan off first, which I showed you. It's the part that's underneath. It's kind of a square shape with a notch cut out of one corner. There's 16 bolts that hold this pan on. They're typically 1/2 inch, and you'll need an extension. Probably 6-inch extension would be fine with the 1/2 inch socket. Remove these 16 bolts, set them aside. Make sure you have a large pan that you catch the fluid, because as you take the pan off, fluid's going to start dripping. You need to, when you take the last 2 screws out, have someone with you, or if you're able to, hold the pan up yourself and keep it fairly level when you remove the last 2 screws, and gently lower it into the pan to catch the old transmission fluid. This fluid will continue to drip for probably 15 or 20 minutes, maybe even longer. You need to get an air compressor and disconnect one of those 2 tubes that connect on the radiator. Blow some air gently, not using a lot of pressure, through the tube you just disconnected, and then also through the port at which you just disconnected it from. This will blow the fluid that's in the cooling system back out and let it drip into the catch pan. This is essential if you want to replace all of the fluid. The next thing you would do would be to remove the filter. There'll be about 12 screws that are 9mm and 2 that are 3/8 that hold the filter in place. The 2 that are 3/8 also hold another part of the transmission in, but don't worry, there's plenty more bolts that hold it in place. But it is essential that you get these back in. Next, you'll need to clean everything using the brush and that cleaner. Clean everything very well. You'll notice in the bottom of the pan when you take it out, there's a round thing, donut shape. It's probably going to be kind of gross, full of sludge. This is a magnet. It's used to catch small pieces of metal that collect and wear off during normal operation of the transmission. Any automatic transmission has this problem. Doesn't matter if it was made in 1937 or yesterday. You'll need to clean it off very well too. This may be a lot more difficult than you bargained for, but it doesn't need to be cleaned. Next, after you have everything cleaned, you need to clean the transmission where the pan bolts to. There's a lip that matches the shape of the pan. Make sure you wear eye protection and breathing protection if required, but always eye protection. Use some of that cleaner, spray and wipe gently to get all the fluid and the dirt that may have collected around there removed. After you have everything cleaned, it's time to put the pan and the filter back together. First, you put the filter in. If you notice when you took it off, there's an aluminum gasket that goes between the filter and the main body of the transmission. Hopefully you didn't throw this away, or you have another one. If you're reusing the same one, make sure it's clean also. Hold the filter up with one hand, one clean hand, and start putting the bolts in one at a time. Once you get 2 of them in, and only finger tight, then work on all the rest of them. Do not try to use any Loctite or anything on these internal screws. Once you get them all back in, you'll need to torque them. Use a torque wrench, which are available just about everywhere. Typical would be about 40 to 45 inch-pounds of pressure on the 9mm ones, and about 55 pounds on the 3/8 ones. Make sure you go around 2 or 3 times and have good complete torque on them. Next, it's time to put the pan on. You put the new gasket on after you've cleaned everything off. I use a little bit of gasket maker and put it on the pan and place the gasket on there and press it down. That keeps it from sliding. Then you put all the bolts back in, hand tight, one at a time. Then go around slowly torquing them. These would be around 16 inch-pounds of torque. Start with your torque wrench set to 5. Go all the way around, click them all to 5. And continue the circle, increasing your torque to 8, 12, and 16. And once you hit 16, go around at least twice to make sure that everything is locked in place tightly. Next, you have to fill the transmission with fluid again. The transmission dipstick that you saw earlier will need to be removed, and a long, small neck funnel. This particular model holds approximately 13 quarts of fluid. If you're fairly sure you got it all out, start by putting 2 gallons in. Then start the vehicle up, leave it in park, let it run for about 15 seconds, and check the level. It may not show anything on the dipstick, and this would not be unexpected. At this point, add 1 quart at a time, repeating this process of starting it and checking and starting it and checking until you get a proper level. On the dipstick, there's a marking of an area approximately a ½ inch that says it's do not add when it's in this area. You definitely don't want it to be over the top of that area. As it warms up, the fluid actually expands and the level will increase. If it's at the bottom of this area while you're doing it cold, stop clean up a little bit, go for a short test drive, probably a quarter mile, a half at the most, and check the fluid level. Check it in accordance with the instructions. Most vehicles, you check it while the transmission is hot, which means the engine will be hot and warmed up. Idling in either park or in neutral.